Everybody, welcome to the School of Social Value. My name is Alan, and I, of course, will be your professor for the day. Today, we're talking about contentment in entrepreneurship, contentment in business. And it's a really important and timely topic because today we are literally living through, witnessing the super elite, the super wealthy in our world continuing to add to their wealth in the midst of Main Street and the lower and middle classes being completely decimated by the economic fallout of the coronavirus. And it is a travesty. It's a complete immoral reality of the world in which we live, and anyone who's objective, looking and watching at what is transpiring right in front of our eyes, has to come to the same conclusion, and that is the super elite, the super wealthy, will never be satisfied with enough money. If they're worth $20 billion, that's still not enough. They need to make sure they're continuing to add to their net worth, to add to 25 billion, 30 billion, 40 billion. There's no quenching, there's no satisfying them. And so when I talk about contentment, I talk about it from personal experience. As someone who's extremely competitive, I'm a twin, so there's that reality in my consciousness and in my upbringing. I've always wanted to be the best at everything I've ever done, and so when I set out to be an entrepreneur, there was a part of me that wanted to be the most successful entrepreneur that's ever lived. There was a part of me that wanted to have the highest net worth of any person that has ever lived. And in many senses, I could have turned FruitCraft into something that turned me into a billionaire at the age of 40. I'm 33 right now. And I could have taken the wealth as a 40-year-old billionaire, and I could have tried to grow that to be worth $100 billion. But, you know, part of that exercise, part of that reality of entrepreneurship does come to a head when you start crunching the numbers of the business itself. And you start to realize that, oh crap, FruitCraft, let's say it reaches its maximum maturity of $8 billion of revenue nationally by distributing to every restaurant and retailer, becoming a household name in the sense of Starbucks style franchise locations all over the country. There was so much that could build this brand to such a huge revenue, let alone a huge valuation. Because if we did $8 billion in revenue, our valuation would probably be around $40 billion for the enterprise value. And as a huge owner of that, I could have potentially ended up with a personal net worth of 5-10 billion as a fairly young entrepreneur. But the truth of the matter is, in looking at the fact that to do so, I would have essentially had to put a huge amount of downward pressure on labor. I may have had to make compromising choices on the quality of our ingredients, and that wouldn't serve consumers. And by and large, I would never be satisfied, no matter what. Especially if I wasn't in first place and there was someone else with a higher net worth, I'd still want to eke my way up to that first place spot. And that is futile and pointless and doesn't even actually satisfy the deepest desires within my heart. As we all know, I end these segments with remember to do good and to share with others. It's because it's from those experiences that I have learned from life itself that it is better to give than it is to receive, that we are actually made happy not based on what we take, but based on what we give and on what we share. And so contentment in terms of your personal finances, in terms of your goal, is going to be the framework of this conversation. And frankly, I don't want to draw any lines in terms of like mandates or laws in the sense of the way we could potentially provide a solution. Case in point, when you're talking about a publicly traded company, I remember this back in the day with Whole Foods. They had salary caps on their highest paid employees, meaning their executive staff, as well, and then their lowest paid. So I think it was at one point maybe 8-to-1, and over the course of the years they expanded that to 15-to-1, so the CEO could make no more than 15 times the average rate of a full-time entry-level employee. And so, that's great, and you can put that into your bylaws, and you can kind of structure some systems like that. But the accountability that's coming forward right now is a market-based accountability. It is not one that's based on you are not allowed to do this no matter what, the letter of the law. Rather, it comes from a spirit of togetherness and a spirit of public accountability. And what I mean by that is if you have a company that does compensate their lower level employees better than another company, then as consumers, we should prefer to buy from them. As investors, we should prefer to invest with them. And as employees, we should prefer to work for those companies. That is our market-based leverage. That is the influence that we wield, and that is our true power in the economy that we're looking to restructure. So the real reality of this bottomless pit of wealth that these people are trying to accumulate is that it's not just a matter of them adding an extra zero to their bank account. It's that they're doing that while other people can use that zero. Right now, there are going to be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of families here in San Diego alone that are going to be having trouble putting food on the table, having trouble keeping the lights on, keeping the heat on. And instead of the surplus from these billionaires going to help out these people, the billionaires would rather have that extra zero, have that extra yacht, have the extra vacation home. As a matter of fact, Bill Gates, in the newspaper I read just this last week, purchased a $43 million home here in Del Mar in San Diego. And I think all of us can feel how completely dense that is. Today, I read an article that he pledged $20 million to help Africa fight the coronavirus. That is a drop in the bucket for this guy. You guys have to understand. He buys a $43 billion home for himself, and then he takes $20 million. Did I say 43 billion or 43 million? $43 million home for himself, and he takes $20 million and he gives it to how many thousands of people? That's the equation, and that's what we're weighing out. And fundamentally, that is the purpose of this content series. Did I say content? Content, spelled the same way, pronounced and meaning very differently. That is the purpose of this series. It is to explore what is that threshold and how do we truly live in a world where those of us who have the ability to make lots of money go, you know what, I actually don't need all this money. I'd be totally happy with a certain amount of net worth, but I don't need $100 billion net worth. So with that in mind, let us lay up the next video in this series, which will be addressing the question of what is the maximum net worth someone needs in this world to be happy, and at what point should that person start sharing their wealth beyond that point. So stay tuned to the next video, and as always, remember to do good and to share with others. Cheers.